Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a quick first impressions. This won't be a long video, but it is about a knife that I have been eyeing for a long time. I think just as it sits here, you can see this is a really attractive design. This is a combo design or combo, whatever. Kombu, I guess would be the best way to say it. Kombu design from Bestech. Same guy who did the Fairchild, which I really enjoyed. Fairly substantial knife, and one that, again, I've had my eye on for a while. There was one hiccup with this knife, and that was the price. These days, I have seen them around a couple places fairly deeply discounted. They're still going to be over $100. They're going to be, I think I remember seeing one for like 130, but you're probably going to be paying around 150 USD for this. And that's just not great. In some places they're even like 160, 170, but that's just not great for the materials. All right, mostly the blade steel. The handle itself is kind of interesting. It's that a couple of years ago, Bestech was really excited. The year I went to Blade Show, so this would have been, now we're talking like 4 or 5 years ago. So they were really excited about the layered G10 and carbon fiber, and this knife has that. And it does look really good. It feels really good. I like the material myself, but I don't feel like this material justifies an exorbitantly high price point. You can get this on Civivi knives, and they're going to be closer to $100. The steel on this is 154 cm, and that's the thing that I think causes most people pause. The handle itself is really nice looking. It's as we were saying, it's the G10 carbon fiber combo. We've got this beautifully anodized pocket clip there, titanium liners on this liner lock knife, titanium backspacer, very attractive, very well finished. The action on this is absolutely perfect. I can spidey flick it as well. The ergonomics are really good. So, overall, and by the way, in no surprise, as soon as I saw this knife, it was one of those knives where I just looked at it and go, that's a nice knife, and I'd really like it. And in person, it's exactly what I expected it to be. The only surprise, I guess, was the action on this was better than I've imagined, given sort of where my expectations were. All right, so the action is absolutely perfect on this. Access to the liner lock is great. It feels really good in hand. I'm not going to get too far into this, but the satin blade is beautiful. And really, that's that's all I can say. I've done a little bit of cutting with it because I haven't had it for very long. But having said all that, I do want to share with you a little adventure that came along with this knife. So I got this knife from Canadian Knife and Gear, a Facebook group that I have promoted on my channel many times and will continue to do so. It's absolutely my favorite of the various knife forums that are available out there. Canadian Knife and Gear, great people, great knives, very down to earth. And so I was able to pick this up on that market, secondary market, for a very good price. Okay. But really, here's the problem with the knife. I was able to pick it up for a price that was appropriate given the materials and the design and the construction. Right. And so it's hard, I still kind of, even though now that I've got the knife in hand, I'm a little more impressed than the pictures did justice. I am very impressed. The action is, as I say, it's essentially perfect. It's one of the nicest actions I've ever felt. But 154 cm steel for like 160, 170 US dollars is still pretty rich, well too rich for my liking. Excuse me, guys. So after having gotten this in hand, I'm pretty stoked about it. If you can find one of these for a good price, I think they make a lot of sense, and I think you'll really enjoy it. Now, I do have a little story that goes along with this that I just distracted myself from a second ago, and the story is about how this knife caused me a fair bit of stress. Okay, I had paid for the knife. The knife was shipped, and the tracking. Now, first of all, the tracking was really weird. Like, it went backwards for a while, and they had Canada Post had a really, really hard time getting it to me. Ultimately, when it finally arrived, I came home, as you do on New Knife Day. I was pretty stoked to get my hands on it. I went to check the mailbox and no knife. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? So I looked back at the tracking. It said delivered. I called the post office, and they were like, "Yeah, our delivery driver says she remembers putting it in the mailbox." And she said, maybe she said, and this is when I got deeply concerned. She said, "Well, if by chance she didn't put it in the mailbox, she would have put it up by the door. There's a spot where I have a side door where pretty much all the packages end up." And I said, "No, it wasn't there." They asked me to go outside and look. So I went and I looked. Like, I looked in the barbecue. I looked in a toolbox. I had a toolbox by the door. Um, I looked in the toolbox. I looked everywhere. No knife. Okay. So I'm like, great. It's been either delivered to the wrong address or maybe it was stolen out of my mailbox. You think of all the worst case things that can happen. We're going to have to file a claim with Canada Post. And I will say the sender was really good. He said, "Hey, if you have a problem with this, just let me know and I'll file the claim and get things worked out." So after all this, so I'm like, days. It's a couple of days, 3-4 days, and I'm like, where is this stupid knife? So the next week, so it's maybe, I think it was supposed to be delivered on like a Thursday. So the following Tuesday morning, that's the morning that our garbage gets collected. It was a windy day and it was kind of miserable, and our blue box blew down the road, like a good 50 feet down the road, over the neighbor's driveway into their ditch. So I go down into the ditch to get the blue box, and there's a cardboard box in there. And that's pretty standard, because I'm like, oh, this probably just fell out of the blue box. But when I picked it up to throw it back in the blue box, it was unopened, still sealed shut, taped, covered in plastic. I'm like, wait a second. So I take a look. Sure enough, the sender's name is on the box. Open it up. Everything, the box I had to like dump water out of. It was totally drenched. The knife itself was pretty dry. Now, it was packed inside a plastic bag, and then inside another plastic bag. So that did do a lot to protect the knife, but it was a little damp. So I opened it up, I dried it out, I cleaned and lubricated everything just to make sure. And the knife is fine. It's been good ever since. But boy, oh boy, I could not believe that how did that knife end up 50 feet down the road from in my driveway in the ditch? And the only thing that I can think of is that the snowplow went by, and when it went by, it slammed into either the blade itself or even just the snow coming off, slammed into the mailbox and shot this package down the road. But you got to think about the physics involved in that, and what are the chances. I looked around the mailbox, they told me to, and so it was nowhere around on my property. It was all the way down the road at the neighbors. So how that happened is absolutely beyond me. But nonetheless, I'm happy to have the knife. I'm really enjoying it, actually. And and essentially, I feel really great about this knife because I ended up getting it for what I actually think it probably should have been selling for in the first place, by buying it, of course, used. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Again, I appreciate you watching. I'd love to hear your comments down below, and we will talk to you soon.